This is CBC Here and Now.
I met with an MHA and there has been an official complaint that's been lodged.
There are always, I think, from time to time, members that take it too far.
We're all hearing different whispers, we're all hearing different potential stories.
He sat on the information, through his own words, for 2 weeks without reporting it. We tell children, we tell anyone in our workplaces that if you see something, you hear something, you report it.
My question was for the Premier on this matter. I'm going to get to the Minister of Education shortly.
Assembly sizzled today.
An MHA files an official complaint against another member of the House. We begin tonight with more details about explosive allegations of harassment and bullying leveled at a Liberal cabinet minister.
Today, Premier Dwight Ball confirmed that his office received a formal complaint.
I commend the person for coming forward with this. So the next step will be to look at a number of options, and then we will sit with the complaint and just she or the person will explore, what the next steps would be.
While the Premier didn't name the Liberal caucus member involved, CBC News has learned that Municipal Affairs Minister Eddie Joyce is the minister at the center of the allegations.
Now, this story came to light yesterday, but the CBC's Fred Hutton has been looking into allegations for more than 2 months now, and he joins us live with the latest. Fred, what can you tell us?
Well, Anthony, while you said that, nobody in the legislature has named him. As you said, though, CBC News has learned that the allegation is against Eddie Joyce. Now, Eddie Joyce didn't say much as he entered the legislature today, brushing by our cameras, but the harassment and bullying complaint line up with accounts from multiple sources to the CBC from both sides of the House who are alleging inappropriate behavior by the senior minister. Now, none would go on the record fearing reprisals for speaking out, but one Liberal member described caucus meetings as a joke, saying people don't speak out because they are afraid of what will happen to them. CBC News has learned that one issue was actually brought to the 8th floor of the Confederation building in early April and dealt with by the Premier's Chief of Staff, Greg Mercer. A spokesperson for the Premier's office told us late this afternoon that she was not aware of that meeting. Now, in the House of Assembly on Tuesday, Premier Dwight Ball denied any knowledge of a complaint, and just hours later, another senior minister, Dale Kirby, issued this email to Liberal MHAs in an attempt to expose the leaks, who spoke to the opposition leader about issues with Joyce. CBC News obtained a copy of that email. In it, Kirby urged the person or persons who leaked the allegations of harassment and bullying to come forward. Kirby wrote, quote, "There is no greater violation of trust." Today, Kirby defended his decision to send that email.
It's very frustrating to have this emerge on the floor during question period rather than through the normal process, because that's really what needs to be done. If there are genuine complaints regarding bullying or harassment or intimidation or otherwise, it really needs to be reported and investigated immediately.
But the effort to find the source of the leak reportedly went a step further, as MHAs were directly asked who is leaking information to the CBC and the opposition members.
What I heard, what I've been advised of, is that this morning something to that regard happened today, where people were asked to provide their cell phones so that they could be, they could be viewed or looked at. Or I can't tell you the exact words of what was used or anything, but that's my understanding of what took place today.
CBC News has also obtained documents about a similar complaint about Joyce. They show that the concerns were brought to the attention of the Justice Minister, Andrew Parsons, through an email sent back in the fall, and another to Elvis Lovelace, another member of the Premier's staff on the 8th floor. Now, the Premier is not offering any further comment on the matter while it's being investigated. And we should say as well that we tried several times to reach Eddie Joyce for comment today by telephone and email, and we were not contacted. Debbie?
Thanks so much. That is the CBC's Fred Hutton reporting. Now, let's bring in Here and Now's Peter Cowan, who's live at the legislature.
All right, Peter, quite the story. How is this playing out there?
Well, yeah, this was the issue that everyone was talking about today in and outside of the House. And it's something that yet again today, the Premier insisted this morning is the first time he actually heard any specific details about a complaint. And he tried to push it on to Paul Davis, saying that he knew about this information 2 weeks ago. Why didn't he come forward and act on it? But now that both sides at least agree that there is one formal complaint, the question is what should happen now? And Paul Davis insists the minister should be turfed.
He should have taken the step to say, I'm going to protect the person who made the complaint first. And he didn't talk about that. He didn't do that. He had lots of opportunity to say he would remove the person. And he's not doing that. He's protecting the person who the allegations are against. He's protecting that person by leaving them there.
Now, this raises broader issues about the conduct of politicians in the House of Assembly and outside. And NDP leader Jerry Rogers says she thinks that politicians need to do better and that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians expect that of them.
When you look at the culture, whether it be inside the house, the sort of that aggressive, sometimes aggressive nature that we see, sometimes it's theater, sometimes it goes beyond that, and sometimes it also goes outside of the house. So it's really important. Again, this points to the need to do politics differently.
Now, the question, of course, is how is this investigation going to play out? And tonight, we're not entirely clear because they're kind of between policies. The Premier said today that it will be up to the person who complained to decide how this is investigated and ultimately resolved. Reporting live at Confederation Building, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Just ahead on Here and Now, we'll take you back to this story and inside the House of Assembly where this story played out today. And in about half an hour, Anthony will speak live with Linda Ross with the Provincial Status of Women about the different types of workplace bullying.
Downtown Corner Brook is soon going to look a whole lot different.
Almost groundbreaking. We've never done anything like this before. We're really looking forward to it.
Be prepared for some delays, but believe me, the change will be worth it.
In 2016, a St. John's cab driver preyed on 2 of his young female passengers, and today he was sentenced to nearly 2 years for those crimes. Ariana Kellen was in court today and has this report, but a warning, some of you may find the details of this story disturbing.
Head down and silent, Lolzum Jakapaj has made court appearances just like this, but today it will be his last. 2 years ago, he drove a cab for Citywide Taxi. Jakapaj picked up a young woman from George Street and brought her home. He grabbed the woman by the back of the head in his taxi and forced his tongue in her mouth. For that, he's been given 2 months in jail. That same month, he followed a 19-year-old passenger inside a home. He grabbed her, ran his teeth on her cheek, and hauled her pants down. For that, he's been given 20 months in jail. Today's silence is in direct contrast to a much more confident Jakapaj when he was arrested.
As she was getting out of her cab, grabbed her and forcefully kissed her.
Yes, why?
That's what she says. Grabbed her by the back of the neck. So why would she say that?
Not a clue.
Police didn't buy it, and neither did Justice Rosalie McGraw. Jakapaj's position of trust as a cab driver was a factor in the judge's decision. In a letter to the court, Jakapaj says he wants to work hard and get his life back, promising never to be in these shackles again. As for the women he assaulted, they didn't show up to see him being let out of the courtroom door one last time. So now Lolzum Jakapaj is heading back to federal prison where he's already serving a 4-year sentence for an on-the-job break and enter. He'll also be on the sex offender registry for life. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
And for more of that story, of course, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/NL. Okay, going to bring Ryan in now. Another fabulous day. Actually rode the bike to work.
It was so lovely and warm.
Fantastic.
It just felt like spring today.
For sure. And it won't be long till some of those buds on the trees are starting to sprout a little bit. When you're looking at some of these temperature highs today, we can check one of the boxes, our first 20-degree temperature of the season today. Drum roll, please. Where was it? Terra Nova, 21 degrees. The high there. And again, these are official Environment Canada station highs, certainly flirting with 20 degrees even in the metro area. Likely some of your thermometers on your back porch in the direct sun would be on above 20 degrees. Bonavista at 18, Gander at 19, just shy of 20 there. Corner Brook at 14, even double digits in through the Happy Valley Goose Bay area. One more day of very nice weather. certainly the clouds increasing, but this system is going to be bringing some rain with it for tomorrow, late day tomorrow for the west coast and into parts of Labrador, and then really for Thursday night into Friday. We have some wind warnings in effect, and I'll break down your full forecast details coming up in just a few minutes.
Growing up in a small rural community still has its, stigma and religious beliefs, and it's such a small, closed-minded area.
I always feel really sad whenever I hear that they've been discriminated against.
The reactions still pouring in around the debate over rainbow crosswalks in Springdale. In 25 minutes, we'll hear from a transgender boy in central Newfoundland, and Debbie speaks with a co-chair of the St. John's Pride Committee about what challenges the LGBTQ community faces.
Well, firefighters in St. John's were kept pretty busy last night. This was the scene on Larkhall Street around 2 a.m. The home, which was under construction, was completely destroyed, and the adjacent building was also damaged. There's no word yet on the cause of the blaze.
Just hours earlier, crews were on site at Carnell's funeral home on Freshwater Road. They responded to smoke coming from the building at around 9:30 p.m. The building was moderately damaged, with most of the destruction limited to the crematorium.
The deadline to cast your vote to decide who will lead the Progressive Conservative Party has passed. All ballots had to be returned by 5 this afternoon. Lawyer Chess Crosby and Healthcare Administrator Tony Wakeham are vying to be the top Tory in the province. The new leader will be announced on Saturday in St. John's.
And now we go to Colleen Connors. We go to Colleen Connors with this story.
Contractors with Brook Construction cut piles down, leveling them off, preparing to pour the foundation. This is just the beginning. The whole bridge will be replaced.
So the bridge will be 3 feet higher, and actually it will be 1 lane wider. There'll be 4 lanes on this road, so that will help with traffic flows and volumes for years to come.
The bridge was first constructed in the 20s. It's old and too low. Water and ice build up underneath, making it unsafe for cars and walkers. The replacement project started earlier this year.
What many people may not realize is that the new bridge is going to be built right here first. They're going to demolish the old bridge, jack up the new one, and then move it over to its new location. It's something that's never been done in Corner Brook before.
It's an old technology, but it's new for us. We're very excited about it. It definitely cut down on our cost, and it definitely cut down on the time that will be delayed for the actual bridge to be installed.
It's costing the city $4.8 million, and so far the project is on schedule. A major road shutdown will happen in July, and traffic will detour around Main Street for 7 or 8 weeks.
But I think after the first week or two, people will adjust to it, add more time to their daily trips, and I think it should be okay.
The new bridge will be lifted into place in mid-September. That's something Follett is excited to see.
Well, for us, it's almost groundbreaking. We've never done anything like this before. We're really looking forward to it. It opens up a lot of avenues for us, and we have a lot of other municipalities that are calling us and wanting updates and want our, final opinion on when the project is completed, because they're in similar situations.
Drivers can enjoy the new 4-lane bridge by October. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
It was an opportunity for the Premier to step up and do the right thing.
Who knew what and when?
Accusations hurled in the House following today's harassment complaint. More on Here and Now's top story after the break. Welcome back. We return to our top story now, the harassment complaint at the House of Assembly. Dwight Ball confirmed today that a member of the Liberal caucus lodged a complaint against another MHA. CBC News has confirmed that MHA is Cabinet Minister Eddie Joyce. That detail was not known publicly earlier today as the MHAs filed into the House for the sitting of the legislature. Still, who knew what and when? That became part of a very heated debate during question period today.
The minister himself said in the email there's no greater violation of trust in relation to someone disclosing and raising concern. So I asked the Premier, is it a violation of trust for a member of this House to try and put a stop to harassment and intimidation?
The Honourable the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to respond to this question. These are extremely serious allegations that the leader of the PC party has been, well, he dragged into the House of Assembly here yesterday, clearly trying to make it political. He sat on the information, through his own words, for 2 weeks without reporting it. That is a violation of trust for any member of this House of Assembly, and especially I find that particularly despicable since he is a former police constable himself, to allege to have information and to not provide that. We tell children, we tell anyone in our workplaces that if you see something, you hear something, you report it. Instead of that, this is the road that the Leader of the Opposition wants to go down.
The Leader of the Official Opposition.
He's the minister responsible for safe and caring schools, and he issues an email to his own caucus after someone is known to have been speaking out, and he condemns them for doing so. No greater violation of trust, he said in his email, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Premier. Is it a violation of trust for a member of this Honourable House to try to put a stop to harassment and bullying?
The Honourable the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development.
As I said, Mr. Speaker, these are very serious allegations. Yesterday, the leader of the PC party came in here and said that he had information about alleged harassment that was taking place amongst members of this House of Assembly. He knew about that for a period of 2 weeks. That is a violation of trust. I reached out to my colleagues to encourage them to come forward with the information and to reveal it if that indeed was the case. It is an absolute violation of trust to not report this information. We tell students, we tell people in workplaces, if you see harassment, if you witness harassment and bullying in the workplace, you should report it. The member did not do that. He's decided to sit on the information.
Mr. Speaker, in my lifetime, I've had the unfortunate, I say unfortunate with the greatest respect, experiences where I've dealt with people with numerous matters where they've been victims of abuse or assault or intimidation or bullying. And I would never force a person to make a complaint or speak out publicly or against their will or their wishes, make that known. I would never do it. I would never do it, Mr. Speaker, and I will protect anyone in that particular circumstance.
Now, I was up at the House of Assembly in the press gallery, and I can tell you, Debbie, of the times I've been there recently, it was extremely tense, quiet at times. And I also noticed there weren't a lot of female MHAs doing the applause that you usually see. It was very, very serious. And it sets up what's going to be another serious day now that we've identified the minister at the center of this. Tomorrow is likely going to be another tense day in the House of Assembly.
And of course, we will have the very latest on Here and Now tomorrow night. You can barely see this rainbow crosswalk in downtown St. John's after the long winter, but it's soon going to be repainted, a symbol of LGBTQ inclusion for everyone to see. So why isn't it that easy in Springdale? That's just ahead. Okay, I'm getting used to what we've had for the last couple of days, but it's not going to last, is
well, you know, this time of year, I think a win is temperatures above 10 degrees.
That's true.
Right? That's a little above seasonal. So anything on top of that's gravy. But of course, we need some showers because here in Newfoundland, April showers bring May flowers. May showers bring June flowers.
There's so many flowers out
June
now.
showers bring July flowers. You know,
as long as we don't get snow on May 24th weekend to kill all the flowers.
We'll definitely get another taste at some point. And in fact, we do have some snow in the forecast for Labrador, but also some rain. Have a look at your current temperatures. It's still 19 degrees this hour in Gander, 15 in St. John, still 9 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 8 in Cartwright, and 15 in Twillingate as well. Winds from the right direction, certainly for this time of year, in from the southwest. Again, you folks along the south coast, yeah, a little cool in those onshore winds today, but really for the rest of us, not looking too bad at all. Now, watch those clouds, again, that have been building in today, and certainly we will see a cloudier day tomorrow, but still some sunny breaks in the mix, especially for the eastern half of the island. As we look off to the south, this is our weather maker, and again, it's been slowly crawling up the coast over the last 24 hours. Hasn't moved much, in fact, but it will continue to stretch in with those rains through the next 24 hours. And of course, the cloud cover has already started to build in. Now, there's a rainfall warning in effect for Western Labrador. One of the reasons, again, not a ton of rain in terms of what you'd think of for a rainfall warning, 15 to as much as perhaps 30 millimeters of rain. But with the snowpack and the ground still frozen, that water has nowhere to go. And so a heads up that some localized flooding certainly possible here in western parts of Labrador. Rainfall amounts are going to be a little bit higher here over the southwest coast. Good chance it's over 30 millimeters here. Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning for Burgeo-Ramia, also a wreck house wind warning, and a wind warning for as far north as Corner Brook. That's for tomorrow night, so not quite a concern over the next 24 hours, but certainly if you do have some travel plans for tomorrow night, you're going to want to keep that in mind. Some gusts in the 110 range along exposed areas of the coast. Here's where we start tomorrow. Fairly mild for this time of year. 2, 3, 4 degrees on the plus side. Winds in from the south, southwest, and -1 to -5 for you folks across most of Labrador. Now, note as we roll through tomorrow, there's 11 a.m. Still some sunny breaks in the mix here over eastern parts of Newfoundland. And as we roll into the afternoon, certainly those clouds thickening up a little bit. The best chance of showers for the afternoon will be Port aux Basques to the Port-au-Port Peninsula. Perhaps a late day shower in Corner Brook as well. Happy Valley Goose Bay on the doorstep. Labrador City, though, really will be the wettest spot across the province through the day tomorrow. Here a look at some of those temperatures. Once again, 6, 7, 8, 9 degrees in the south. Looking at warmer temps, especially St. John's up the northeast coast into central, where we're talking about 16 to 18 degrees once again. Now in Labrador, again, rain, and that rain will coming down at times heavy in western parts of Labrador with increasing clouds in the east. Now picking things up at 11 o'clock tomorrow evening, you can see where that rain has already started to march in. It will continue to do so as we roll into the Friday time period. It's going to be wet for central and eastern Newfoundland, especially Friday morning. The rain tapers off to a little more shower drizzle activity into the later parts of Friday. May even see a couple of sunny breaks popping out in through Labrador. Temperatures, once again, with that southerly wind, will be on the mild side. 10 to as warm as 16 degrees on the island. We will talk about your weekend forecast in detail coming up in just a few minutes. Debbie?
Well, the Town Council of Logie Bay Middle Cove Outer Cove is throwing its support behind Springdale. Last night, the town voted unanimously to paint its first rainbow crosswalk. 2 new crosswalks will be painted in the coming weeks, one at the Town Hall and another on Outer Cove Road. The mayor says councillors came up with the idea themselves to show support for Springdale and the LGBTQ community. And they're not alone. Holy Family Elementary in Chapel Arm, Trinity Bay, created a rainbow crosswalk out of chalk today to show solidarity with the students at Indian River High. Well, the standoff in Springdale over the proposed rainbow crosswalk is still in the hands of council. They're reconsidering a request from the Gender Sexuality Alliance at Indian River High School, which they initially turned down. The rainbow sidewalk is a symbol of inclusion for the LGBTQ community. Paul Comden is watching the issue with interest as a member of the St. John's Pride Committee and as someone who grew up gay in rural Newfoundland. So, Paul, what is your reaction to what's going on in Springdale?
To see, such a ratio of, 4-3 vote against it, I think it's a major homophobic against our community.
So the mayor, though, said initially that he felt that putting the crosswalk there would actually create a division and not inclusion. And a whole lot of townspeople agree with him. You don't buy that argument?
Absolutely not. I really don't understand what he means by diversion. It seems like he's trying to separate the community from what we are asking for.
Now, the Students' Alliance, they say they don't want a fight with the council. They want to work with them. But how do you bridge such a wide divide and bring people closer together?
I had spoke to the 3 students on that alliance, as well as I assume the principal or the teacher that's involved with them. I had a conference call with them yesterday, and they had said that the town and people in the city has been, so forthcoming and trying to work with them, and everybody has been pleasant. But I still raise the matter that if the town and the mayor's not homophobic as he says he is, why was it such a high ratio vote? Why did they turn it down? It's just paint, and even the Alliance said that they would come up for some fundraising or donate some money and put the paint on with no cost to the council.
So the council is still reviewing the request, the second request from the Students' Alliance, so they've yet to make their decision. But I wanted to ask you, as a young person, a gay man growing up in a rural area in Fogo, had you had any experience of this kind of intolerance, many people would call it?
Well, growing up in a small rural community still has its, stigma and religious beliefs, and it's such a small, closed-minded area. I knew I was gay at a very young age. I was scared to come out based on religion, based on my surroundings and some of my family, and I was afraid that I was going to get bullied. And the school is very small. Maybe the population from K to 12 might be 400 or 500. It's not an easy process in such a closed-minded, like-minded people. It's very difficult for anyone to come out and be who they really are.
Now, you are here in St. John's, a diverse city, a much bigger city than Fogo or Springdale. Do you think that it is easier to be included when you're in a big city versus in rural parts of our province?
Absolutely. I have so much support since I moved in. It took me maybe a year or two to adjust to the city life, but once I came out, there was some minor struggles, but you're in a bigger city, you're a lot more diverse, there's a lot more people like you, there's a lot more open-minded people, it's not so closed-minded, religion don't seem to be a major factor. Absolutely, 100% support since I've been in the city.
What is your parting message to the people in Springdale? What would you hope?
Well, I would hope that the council would, revote the situation and bring it to council and maybe re-elect on this and have this sidewalk there. Personally, I think it's going to happen with all the public media attention now and whatnot. But I think if the Alliance and the kids of the Indian River High School and the teacher, whoever's on the Alliance, work with the council, and it seems to be that everybody has a good relationship, I think that matters would go forward and it'll look great, and they will go ahead and put the sidewalk there.
Paul Comden, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
A 14-year-old transgender boy says rainbow symbols can make a big difference. Elliot Blackmore lives in Grand Falls, Windsor, and Elliot prefers the non-specific pronoun they. They came out as transgender to their family 2 years ago. Elliot says seeing rainbow flags and stickers helped when they were growing up. They have a message for the people of Springdale who are opposed to a rainbow crosswalk.
I want to know why it is such a big deal for them that LGBT people can feel accepted by a small gesture, and why does that hurt them so much? Why does that cause them so much turmoil?
Growing up transgender in rural Newfoundland comes with a lot of challenges, and their support from the community is very important. Here and Now's Garrett Barry spent the morning with Elliot and his family.
I feel like I knew from when I was about 10 that I wasn't cis. Realizing I was trans was probably around when I was like 12. But it's never been a super big deal to me, I don't think. It's just always kind of been like, this is how I am. I've been questioning my gender for a couple of years. I had kind of talked about it pretty briefly with my mom, and my mom just came up to me one morning and she was like, did you figure out the gender thing yet? And I was like, yeah, I'm trans. It was pretty uneventful almost.
I could see it was sort of like a burden off his shoulders, that he finally felt really good in his skin. And just seeing him be himself, be able to express that part of him, that was worth more than, you know, us having to get used to different pronouns. It's a small price to pay to see our child so happy and just feel really good about himself.
When you're in a small town, there's a very low pool of people that you can be friends with, and I had a hard time relating to a lot of them, but online I met a lot more people who I could relate to and have shared similar experiences, such as being trans, and I could kind of connect to them on a way that is kind of hard to connect with some of the people here. I have LGBT friends in school, and it's hard for them. Like, people really are ignorant, and I always feel really sad whenever I hear that they've been discriminated against. It's disheartening.
Luckily, Elliot is a very confident, self-assured person. I think I'll worry more about him maybe when he's out in the bigger world. Right now, I still feel like I have him at home, and that's good. However, I have talked to parents who are from here and from surrounding areas whose kids are attending high school and who do experience some terrible things, name-calling, threats of violence. And is that part of the small-town mentality? I'm not sure. I think it may be. I find it very unfortunate, and I do worry that Elliot could experience that someday.
No, I'm pretty sure that when I'm older, I'm going to move to a bigger city, probably something like even St. John's or Halifax or Toronto. It's just like there's a bigger community there, and I really do value being able to meet more LGBT people and people with similar interests, and just to have more opportunities for myself to do different things.
Remember, you can watch Here and Now while you're on the go. We're broadcasting live on YouTube. You can also catch past episodes on demand. Just go to YouTube and subscribe to CBC NL. We're back after the break with more reaction to the complaint out of the House of Assembly.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome back to Here and Now. In a moment, Anthony has a live interview about the forms harassment can take. Premier Dwight Ball repeatedly told the House of Assembly today that he takes allegations of misconduct very seriously, but he also emphasized that the kind of harassment soon to be under investigation is different.
I've been given permission to say that with the consent of the complainant that this is not something that's sexual in nature. This is not a physical assault or physical in nature. This is really about behavior and conduct, but yet I do not want to dismiss the seriousness of any of those complaints.
Under investigation is not sexual. What other kinds of harassment are there? Joining Anthony now, Linda Ross. She's the president and CEO of the Provincial Advisory Council on the Status of Women.
Well, Linda, thanks you for agreeing to come on Here and Now tonight. It's good to see you.
Thank you for asking.
Obviously a very serious issue today in the House of Assembly. If harassment is not sexual, what kinds of forms can it take?
Well, I think there's a kind of bullying that we know that goes on in the harassment where it's just overall disparaging comments around an individual, whether it's personality, whether it's body size or body shape, or challenging any ideas that you have. But basically what it is demeaning someone on an ongoing basis.
And can this non-sexual harassment, can it sort of be targeted to women in a gender-based way?
Oh, certainly, and I think that's one of the things that we often hear about that's a real barrier for women who look at going into politics. They talk about the fact that, women relate stories of being told to, get back in the kitchen or go home and do your knitting, or these kinds of comments that basically say, you don't belong here.
Right.
This isn't a place for you. And especially, if it's somebody who, doesn't like what you're saying or disagrees with you.
Right. I've been in 3 legislatures and Parliament, and sometimes you'll hear male parliamentarians raising their voices to mimic a female voice, things like that. Does that count as harassment?
Oh, there's that, and there's the behaviors that you see around when a female gets up to speak, for example. The sort of slouch back in the chair, almost as if to be dismissive of whatever she has to say. I've seen actions taking a pen and just sort of twiddling the pen, and things that often you don't see when a man is getting up to speak. And it's almost that you just don't belong here.
Now, you've had some experience in a legislature, namely ours. One of the things that has to do with the culture of our politics, our system's adversarial, and people are pointing their fingers and they're hollering. Does that kind of political culture contribute to this?
Yeah, it does, and it's been going on for far too long, and it's time to stop. And I think that one of the things that we're all very well aware of is, Time's Up and Me Too, where a light's been shone on an issue and it's actually time to really address it and say, no, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. I think there's a lot of us who feel that the light is being shone on the kind of harassing behavior, and it has to stop. We don't want to see this way, but to be fair, this is the kind of behavior you see federally, you see it provincially, and you see it in municipal councils, and we hear about it all the time.
Now, CBC News has decided to name the minister at the centre of this. It's Eddie Joyce, the minister responsible for municipalities as well as the environment. Is this a particular individual kind of problem in this case, or do you think this is a symptom?
I think it's a symptom. I think it's something that's been allowed to happen far too long in terms of what is acceptable behavior. And we don't want to see it anymore. A lot of women's organizations have really spoken out about it. A lot of female politicians themselves have spoken out and said, this is not acceptable. And, we know this is the kind of behavior that we try to ensure our children don't engage in.
Right.
We try not to have them behave like that at school, and yet somehow it is acceptable. All you have to do is go into the House and watch sort of the conduct, the heckling, the kind of, and it isn't necessarily sometimes just towards women. It's, somebody that you disagree with or an opposition member. And really, is that really what's necessary to run the province, that kind of behavior?
What good could come out of this incident?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to see happen is to have some very solid policies. We've said time and again that there has to be a code of conduct for elected officials at all levels of government. And with that, there have to be consequences for not adhering to the code of conduct. you know, we need to have that in place. How do you deal with situations like this and know that they are in fact going to get dealt with, that it's not just going to be swept under the rug?
Linda Ross, I want to thank you for your insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What do I do?
Sending a strong message. Up next, how these high school students are warning of the dangers of impaired driving ahead of prom season. We'd like to give a shout out to a local hockey player from Catalina. This is 13-year-old Jackson Lodge. Just completed his 7th year of hockey and was a goalie for the first time this season.
Has that rugged hockey hair as well. He plays with the Bonavista Cabots. He led his team to the Pee Wee Division D gold medal with 4 wins, 2 shutouts. 1 shutout being the championship game. That is fantastic.
Way to go, Jackson. You are today's Young Athlete of the Day.
As we were saying earlier, what a day in these parts anyway.
It just takes a little bit of sun and warmth to make things come alive.
And these are some of the shots that our very own Mark Cumby gathered for us today.
Look at that now. Cycling. I took the bike into work, not a motorbike. It's always like the end of the zombie apocalypse when sun comes like this, and everyone comes out of winter and takes to the streets.
This is so great to see the buskers down there and
chiselers.
We've been starved for it.
Trying out the new shades for summer, and those things are all over the place. I can't believe how many of those I've seen this year, more than ever in my 7 years here.
I love them.
It's great. And birds.
Actually, I was going around Kitty Vitty Lake this morning and to a couple, and the man was taking pictures of a bird like that one. Maybe he sent it in. No, it was Mark, right? Way up in a branch, so I just didn't get in their shot. So birds are out, bird watchers are out, and everybody else.
Yeah, definitely it feels like spring, and it won't be long till the plants catch up, and we already, as we saw there, some of the crocus is already starting to pop up. And the rain, of course, will help to green things up as well. And we do have some rain on the way, more for others than more for some than others in terms of the rainfall warnings that are in effect for Burgeo and Ramia, where it looks like at least 30 millimeters on the way there. And for western parts of Labrador, in the 15 to 30 millimeter range. Again, 15 to 30, not typically rainfall warning criteria, but when we are talking about the fact that the snowpack and the ground's still very frozen there, of course, in western parts of Labrador, that is going to be perhaps an issue with some localized flooding. Wind warnings that are in effect for western parts of Newfoundland for tomorrow night. Exposed areas along the coast could gust to 110, and Wreck House under a wind warning as well. Again, nice warm air flooding up the eastern seaboard with this system, and so although we are going to certainly increase the cloud cover, we're going to be seeing rain moving in. The warm temperatures aren't going anywhere. That southerly flow continues, and this time of year, of course, that's always a good thing to help really bring spring along. And here is how things are going to play out over the next couple of days. We've got sun and cloud on the menu for tomorrow to start the day. Clouds thickening up from west to east, and a few late day showers for the southwest coast up towards Happy Valley Goose Bay. Periods of rain at times heavy, especially where you see these pockets of yellow. That is where the model is indicating we do have the potential to see some of those heavier amounts of rain. And when you see those shades of orange, that would for sure bring the risk of some heavier rains. Can't even rule out a rumble of thunder coming through with this line that'll be shooting through on Friday, and it will work through, again, mainly Thursday night into Friday. By the time we get to Friday afternoon, just some lingering shower and drizzle activity as that low works off to the north. We'll see a bit of a break for Friday evening. If you have some Friday evening plans, things I think looking okay right now, and early Saturday looking okay as well. But Saturday through the day, our next system will start to push in with more showers on the menu. And I think this one will for sure be more of a scattered shower event on Saturday into the Saturday evening time period. And then into Sunday, we're going to turn up the chances of rain and really start to bring in some periods of rain, which could be at times heavy, especially for eastern parts of Newfoundland for later Sunday and into Monday. That line clears out, and then a bit of a break once again, which should hold until we have looks like a midweek Tuesday into Wednesday possibility of a system pushing in from the south. So once again, not much change in the 7-day in terms of our rain chances and our warm temperatures, but certainly Friday and Sunday looking like the wetter of the 2 days for Newfoundland with the better chances of rain, whereas Saturday and Monday more like shower activity. That will linger into the Tuesday and Wednesday time period with a bit of a cool down. Labrador rain will eventually mix back to snow, first in the west for Friday and Saturday, and then Saturday into Sunday for Happy Valley Goose Bay in the east. And you can see where we've got temperatures looking like they'll slide a little bit for you folks as well into next week. That's your forecast. And now, Debbie.
Thank you, Ryan. Turkey is now on board with installing a caribou statue to mark the Battle of Gallipoli with the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. There are 5 caribou monuments at sites of battles involving the Royal Newfoundland Regiment during the First World War throughout France and Belgium. The 5 statues retrace the history of the regiment, but the Battle of Gallipoli in Turkey was never marked. Today, a delegation from the Turkish government was in the House of Assembly. Their proposal would see a monument built next to the cemetery where several soldiers of the regiment are buried, including Private Hugh McWhirter, the first casualty of the regiment at Gallipoli.
Heading into prom season, students at Holy Spirit High School are sending a strong message about the dangers of impaired driving, and they're using a very graphic lesson. Take a look.
I have to call the police. Levi! Help! Help!
The simple message that I'd like to pass on to you: impaired driving is stupid. It's the only way I can put it. It's stupid. There's absolutely no reason to do it.
As far as I know, most people do just understand. It's just understood. You don't really drive when you're impaired, but it's still a very real occurrence, and it's still an issue, so you got to look out for it as much as you can.
I think that students know that it's a bad idea to drive impaired, but they don't see the actual effects that it can have. And I think seeing it in real life and having the whole situation play out, students really see the effect that it could have on them and everyone around them.
It almost make you sick. You almost get stomach sick thinking what a family has to go through, what our officers have to go through, what the victims have to go through. In some cases, they're fatalities, people get killed, and in some cases, they get injured beyond belief, and they carry those injuries and those memories for the rest of their lives.
Like, there's a lot of impact, because especially if it's people you know too, like everybody like knows us, and it's I'm much more scary, much more real, I guess, to see it happening.
I think that is a bit of an issue, because I think people do think that weed and marijuana and stuff like that won't actually impair you as much as drinking, but it's still intoxicated, you're still impaired, and it still has a very great effect on your reaction time and your abilities.
I do see a difference in how people react to drunk driving versus driving high. You always hear the stories of students that say things like, oh, like, I'm a great driver, I drive better when I'm high. Obviously these rumors are not true, but those are the things that circulate, and just seeing it in this situation, I think it's going to raise a little more awareness and let everybody know that it's not okay.
So I'm looking at each of you and I'm telling you that if you're out and you decide that you're going to have a few drinks, you know you're not of age, we're not encouraging it, but we all know the reality is there's a good chance you will. And if you do, then don't be afraid to call your parents. They would rather have a call from you than hearing from our police officers or get that dreaded knock on that door saying that you're never coming home again.
Oh, wouldn't that be something nice to do?
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about spring in this show, obviously, given spring is springing, but how about a little look at still some parts of the province with a little bit of snow and able to get out and enjoy. Can you guess where this is? Southwestern Newfoundland.
Oh.
And these mountains have a name.
Southwestern. Up towards Port aux Basques.
Near Burgeo?
We'll have to ponder.
Near Burgeo, yes.
All right. We're going to wind down the show with some lovely nature pictures for you. The grizzly bears on BC's Grouse Mountain have emerged from hibernation.
The popular residents at the special habitat were greeted with cheers as they stepped into the sunlight.
You notice there's two of them. Must be nice after you get all that sleep. Grinder and Kula were back exploring their surroundings, and they seem to have shaken off those winter blues, despite the mounds of snow still on the ground.
Oh.
Roll around. Forgot how to walk for the winter.
Well, you know, these guys are both orphans, by the way. They've been living in the habitat habitat atop the mountain in North Vancouver since 2001.
Right.
The hibernating grizzly spent 153 days indoors under observation by infrared cameras. No wonder they're frolicky.
It'd be nice to get that much sleep, though. Wake up. Now, some people go to great lengths to maximize the number of golf swings that they take in a day, like this guy.
Oh, my.
You need some help barbecuing burgers? Not a problem. He's been nicknamed Grill Mickelson. Pretty good form.
This is from the Instagram account of Michael and James, no last name given, who spent a lot of time doing golf trick shots. And you can check out their Instagram account by searching for That Golf Grind.
Right.
Now, hopefully he cleaned that iron before he broke it out, but
he must have pretty good aim. There's no big pock marks all over the front of the barbecue.
Our viewer picture tonight comes from just off the Burgeo Highway, and this is the Aniopsquatch Mountain. The mountain is located on the Burgeo Highway in the interior of the island near Lloyd's Lake. Aniopsquatch is a Mi'kmaq word meaning terrible rock. The summit is 687 meters.
So terrible about it. It's beautiful.
It is fantastic.
It's great.
Thanks very much, Aidan, for sending it along. We learned something there. I learned something there tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for being with us. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Going home to barbecue.
I'd love to see